Welcome to the 56th episode of ML Backstage. My name is Mars Luna,
And I'm Ethan.
and we're introducing this podcast straight from the sixth dimension. This music commentary podcast is hosted by just Joshua Luna today. Holo Kahiki Toves and Kainalu Kamai won't be joining because Joshua planned out this episode very last minute. Today we're going to be talking about my lucky number 7 EP, Captain's Log. Shout out to Star Trek. Earthlings, grab your popcorn and let's get started. Back to planet Earth we go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 56 of the ML Backstage podcast. My name is Joshua Luna, and I'm normally joined by my co-hosts, Holokahiki Toves and Kainalu Kamai. They were my best friends. They still are. I don't know why I said were, but I normally record these episodes pretty early in the month because I normally record one episode a month, but I planned this out too late. Today is November 21st, and it just wasn't enough time to get everybody's schedules aligned. You feel me? But Holo Kaiki Toves and Kanalu Kamai are my best friends who've been a part of this specific journey that I've been on for the past 9.5 years. And this journey that I'm referring to, if you're watching for the first time or listening for the first time, is that I have a music project by the name of Mars Luna, who is the space alien singer and cosmic prince from the sixth dimension. And basically, I've compiled a solar system of work, which includes several EPs, several albums. The albums are the main course, and the EPs and double singles and stuff are the orbitals. But basically, the ML Backstage is essentially a time capsule that kind of talks about the behind the scenes of what happened during each specific project or single or era or feature or whatever the case may be. So I can look back at these episodes years and years down the line, and it can be like, hey, like this is what I went through during this time. This is what happened during this album. This is what happened during Lost in Space. This is what happened during Dark Matter and all that kind of stuff. And today we are going to cover Mars Luna's seventh EP, Lucky Number 7, 777, Captain's Log. And Captain's Log is essentially a log entry, a journal entry that's been recorded by the ship's captain. It was inspired by Star Trek. As you can see, Leonard Nimoy behind me here, if you're watching on YouTube. And, shout out to my boy Andrew Ramsey, who goes by the spoken word poet named Ramsey the Voice. He was the one who actually came up with the idea for this captain's log to even happen. So basically, what happened is I dug deep into the archives and found some unreleased versions of old songs that never saw the light of day until now. And before I go into those said songs, I want to talk about uh, not Captain's Law, but Star Trek real quick because it's funny. I was exposed to Star Trek when I was a kid. I did not understand anything regarding Star Trek at the time, but I basically, as a young adult, I learned about Star Trek almost exclusively through The Big Bang Theory. Shout out to Sheldon Cooper, shout out to Jim Parsons, shout out to Tom Bro, shout out to Thomas Brooks. But yeah, it was but Captain's Laws was essentially a concept of these were songs that I had deep in the chamber, and you know if I were to share some final transmissions of some old Dark Matter songs, some old New Orbit songs, some old Lost in Space songs, or, whether it's a voice memo, whether it's a demo, whether it's an original concept of a song, I'm going to talk about those original versions in Captain's Log. So let's start with the first song, which is Don't Need to Wonder. And Don't Need to Wonder was the original working title for Wolverine before, shout out to Kyle Lowry, before it became Wolverine, it originally was Don't Need to Wonder. And the lyrics are slightly different for Don't Need to Wonder. And let me pull up the lyrics real fast. So basically, it kind of foreshadowed everything that I'm going through now with Mars Luna. So the first verse says, "My odyssey is coming to an end. I'm on my final orbit, there's no doubt about it. I'm cherishing the curtain call. This swan song is surreal, my ultimate moment. I'm holding in my tears. I can't contain all these emotions. It's too much for me to fathom. But I'll still give you my everything." So this Mars Luna end that I'm experiencing and going through now was something that was written 5 years ago. It was a part of the plan. It was written in the stars, as you know what I'm saying? And I always knew that the end would come, but I didn't know how exactly it would happen. I had 4 albums for the Mars Luna Cosmic Chronicles Odyssey. It was Lost in Space, it was Dark Matter, it was New Orbit, and it was Final Voyage. And Genesis and Prelude, which was originally called True Colors and Genesis Side B, were supposed to be the prologues of the Cosmic Chronicles installment. And now that we're on the epilogue installment, Captain's Log is the first batch of old songs, unreleased versions of songs that never got to see the light of day until now. And back to Don't Need to Wonder and Wolverine, what drew Kyle to the Wolverine name in the first place was the pre-chorus, which we kept. It was, "I hate that I bleed so easily, but I always heal from my wounds. But I embrace the strange and uncertainty, and now I know that I'm ready to shine." So that was like the only part of Wolverine and Don't Need to Wonder that I really kept. In verse 3, instead of Kyle's rap, I wrote, "This was all a part of my plan. It was written in the stars, predestined, foreshadowed, because nothing lasts forever, you know. I'm finishing my race and I have no regrets." And then I changed the cadence here, which I said, "All I wanted was to make you proud and for you to know my heart. All I needed was a chance for me to make this dream of mine real and to finally be free. I'm confident my best days are ahead. I don't need to know what if now." So this version of Wolverine or Don't Need to Wonder has aged incredibly well. And I think the Wolverine song has aged incredibly well also. But now that I've released this voice memo, it basically paints the picture a lot clearer now. And I would say that once I discovered or went through my voice memos just to clean some stuff out, I didn't realize that I had this version in the chamber, and I'm like, this has to be put out there. This version is too good. I like this version a lot, and people just had to see it. So, The Villain 2, the original version of The Villain 2. I remember, shout out to my guy Nick or Roman. We talked about this. We talked about this version back in his episode. You can check that one out. I think it's in the 20s. But basically, funny story. I've told this to him on the episode, but he said that it was basically like this version of the Villain 2 was essentially it was like he made love to the song. Just out of pocket, but completely in line with his personality. But the original version of the Villain 2 was actually very grimy. It had more of an edge to it, I suppose. Um, Whereas the Dark Matter version had some more embellishments on it that kind of fit more with the direction of what Dark Matter is. And essentially, uh, I love the original version of the Villain 2 because it's it had more, yeah, like I said, it had more of this edge. It had more of this. It was a grittier version. Whereas the Villain 2 in the Dark Matter version was a little bit more ethereal, which matched what Dark Matter needed anyway. And the reason why we didn't add this version of the Villain 2 into Dark Matter was because it was sonically dissonant from the remainder of the album. Because I had Rocket Science, I had Gone, which the Villain 2 in Dark Matter was juxtaposed next to Gone. So shout out to Tom for fixing fixing the Villain 2 for that album. But I really love this version of the Villain 2, and Morgan does as well. So I just had to put it out there. It's the anchor song for Captain's Log. So so that one's out there. 3 a.m. So 3 a.m. Was basically my suicide note. And I wrote this. This is the darkest song I ever wrote in my life. Tom, it was originally supposed to be a super acoustic song, which is the version that's on Captain's Log right now. But Tom did his thing on that one to make it a little bit more listenable. You know what I'm saying? Nothing changed lyrically for 3 a.m., but it basically had this like empty acoustic guitar pattern, where I'm basically chucking the guitar and figure picking. But I'll just say that I'm really glad I'm past that period of my life now, where I don't have to worry about, unaliving myself or, ending my life or anything like that. But it was just a reminder of what that period was like back in 2018 when I first wrote that song. So, shout out to those who are surviving, and to those who are trying to trying to stay alive. Just keep going, man. Life will be better. Therapy session, or AKA Love Hotline 20. So basically, Love Hotline was originally supposed to be called Therapy Session, and this was the original script that I had laid out for Dark Matter. And this was probably the most unhinged version of Mars Luna that you'll ever find. There was supposed to be a little singing part too, which I included, which was all I ever wanted was to do the right thing and to go about things the right way. Now I'm leading myself astray. Need someone to save me from fading away. Where do I go from here? Tell me where to go from here. I don't know. Tell me where to go from here. I need to know. This is my therapy session. And basically, for therapy session, I called the wrong number. And I was looking for Western chiropractor. Because I think at the time I was in an accident, and I was trying to well, not when I say accident, it wasn't like a super major accident, but it was something that kind of startled me a little bit. and I was basically trying to, you know, recalibrate myself physically after the accident. And basically in the skit, I called instead of calling Western chiropractor, I called Mars Luna um and the intergalactic love hotline, which is still what it ended up being today. And basically what happened was it was basically a phone conversation gone wrong, where I basically, told Mars that that I was ducking around the fact uh that I was falling in love with my therapist, which didn't exist. But that was basically the scenario that led from therapy session into Rocket Science, which was the song afterwards in Dark Matter. And I was it. It's basically rock bottom. Uh, Dark Matter was Mars Luna's rock bottom album, but probably the best album sonically. And you know, I was listening to it and I'm like, dang, like how much did I change from this? Like Mars Luna was in full deep character mode here, and it was crazy, how much I've changed in. I wrote that in 2018, so 6 years that I did it, and in order for me to um, fit that interlude into Dark Matter, I needed to change the name from Therapy Session um, into Dark Matter, into Love Hotline. Sorry. And then it was a smooth transition from 3 a.m., which was basically, man, I'm trying to end my life right now. I don't know what I'm doing. And Love Hotline, which is the segue in between to segue from 3 a.m. into Rocket Science. And basically the thesis is still the same. Mars Luna gave me terrible advice, and it led, me in this story to shoot my shot at this girl who ended up being no good for me anyway. So, um, so that's therapy session, and the last track is another interlude, the original version of Over Again. So I didn't put this on the track list, but Over Again was originally called Retrograde, and it follows the after. It's track 8 on Dark Matter, but track number 5 for Captain's Log. Over Again is basically in the aftermath of what happened during Lipstick Blues, the song before. And Lipstick Blues, basically I ended up in this hypothetical and metaphorical one night stand, and that's what Lipstick Blues was about. And so it went from shooting my shot with Rocket Science, um, and then successfully shooting my shot with Rocket Science, but I did all the right things the wrong way, and then it led to a one night stand, and then and basically the relationship absolved, right? And and Over Again is basically, or Retrograde in this instance, was basically a reflection point of help me to find a way to start all over again. And that's basically the song. There's like a fat piano instrumental that I didn't even know existed on there. There was supposed to be another interlude part that I didn't record for Retrograde Over Again, which I ended up doing in ended up doing for Dark Matter. But it was supposed to be, I think for the original version of Over Again, the interlude was supposed to be interlude with me, Kainalu, and Scott, talking about all the girls that we lost or whatever. And then there was like there was supposed to be a whole dialogue between me and this other girl, who was supposed to play a part in Dark Matter, but I wasn't able to get one. And basically, that's why there's such a long piano instrumental gap, because there was a piano instrumental there. There was supposed to be a whole interlude there, which ended up being corrected in the Dark Matter version of Over Again. So so everything worked out in the end, but Captain's Log was essentially the first installment of old versions of songs that never got to see the light of day, and now people get to see some of the behind the scenes process of these songs. And the years that you see on the track numbers, like, okay, OG, the Villain 2 OG version 19, 3 a.m. acoustic version 18. The 18, 19 numbers that you see on the track list are their years. They're the years that I wrote them. So even when I listened to Captain's Log for the first time, it was a reminder of how far and how distant I am from Mars Luna now, and looking towards the future and looking towards what's next. Um, Everything feels right, and everything happened the way that it was supposed to. And you know, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to do and perform as Mars Luna for as long as I did. And speaking of, Mars Luna ending, since this is the penultimate ML Backstage episode and the penultimate Mars Luna record, I I want to talk about some of my favorite Mars Luna moments in the spirit of Thanksgiving. Since Thanksgiving is next week, and you know, I would say that in I wouldn't say this is in chronological order, but I'm gonna try to uh go from the beginning all the way to now, because there's a lot that happened. Um, I would say uh releasing Genesis, and working on that at the 11th Street Records was will always be a special moment for me, because I'm grateful that I had friends that were willing to help out with these songs and everything. And uh, shout out to Michael, shout out to Aaron, even though Aaron couldn't help, Michael, Jeremy, and Ronald Corso, and Malcolm for helping me with Genesis, and then meeting Morgan, reuniting with him again, and him doing being willing to do Prelude for free, was a start of a very, very long and very fruitful uh, friendship and brotherhood. And there wouldn't be no real Mars Luna without Morgan. And I got to share all the highs and the lows with him, and he went through a lot of it with me, and I'm grateful for someone who was willing to go through the trenches with me and he had my back the whole time, and that's rare. You feel me? You know, we did we made drop Prelude together, and we parlayed that momentum into working on Lost in Space. And Morgan was the producer who understood my vision for Mars Luna, because he wanted something similar for himself. And I still remember the conversation that I had with him after Lost in Space dropped, and we were so hopeful that we were what Vegas was missing, and we were so hopeful for the future. And this was in 2019 when Mars Luna was at his peak, and Mars Luna found his lane as a character, as this like diet version of David Bowie, and basically. when COVID hit, obviously momentum changed, and we were trying to figure out like how to adjust to everything. And you know, we did Archerous, or I did Archerous, which was which was kind of a lower tier moment, but I'm so grateful for it anyways because it kind of helped. Archerous kind of helped me produce on my own, and I'm still not great at it, but I'm learning along the way, and it made me more willing um, to experiment with different things and figure out what works and what didn't work. And Archerous was kind of a launching point for that. And I was working on Archerous while I was still working on Dark Matter, which was shifted due to the Rona and getting everybody adjusted to you know Rona life and post Rona life, and obviously meeting up with Tom helped save Dark Matter. And Morgan admitted that he still didn't know what to do with the second half of that project. And Tom Tom helped steer it in the direction that it needed to go in. And I'm so grateful for that. And you know, Morgan and I were drained after Dark Matter because it was an exhausting process. Um, but we recovered and we ended up working on New Orbit. And New Orbit was the easiest process that I've worked on with Morgan, and we developed such a great synergy that that New Orbit was smooth sailing. We released New Orbit late because of schedules and stuff like that. Um, but we released it in December. I wish the release was better. The circumstances behind the release was better because I had laryngitis and I was sick for about 5 months, and it was a wicked time. But I realize now that uh, Mars Luna was basically the cosmic Casanova during Dark Matter and New Orbit. So if Dark Matter was cosmic Casanova done right, then done wrong, sorry, then New Orbit was cosmic Casanova done right. But the one thing I didn't realize, and I actually mentioned this in the New Orbit promo, was that uh, I tried to find in character. Mars Luna said that he searched far and wide for his Aurora star, and that never happened. And once that never happened, that all the internal changes that were being made from a character standpoint, from a personal standpoint, were hollow because Aurora Star would have been proof of that substance, would have been proof of that growth. And once I realized um, that New Orbit was as high as Mars Luna was going to go, then the inevitable came where obviously I wrote it out this way anyway. It just happened to play out beautifully in a way that I didn't anticipate. It it segued into Final Voyage. And I actually finished Final Voyage before I finished New Orbit because again, I wanted to accelerate the process and get this done quicker. But Final Voyage went through, and I mentioned this on my unclassified podcast episode with Ali the Grand Finale. Shout out to her, where I got to talk about my Mars Luna discography and solar system um, fully on that platform. You can check that out on It's Mars Luna on Instagram. But basically, I told Ali that, and even on the Final Voyage episodes, that I went through several different hard drives just to save the files. Like I lost individual stems, and I lost like project files, but the songs themselves were still intact. And I realized that, might as well just drop this, get the photo shoot done with Angelo and Kara, and then shave my head green. I'll shave my head back to black, which, it's my hair is growing really, really fast now. Uh, I realized that it was done and my detachment from Mars Luna was complete. And even now, as I release Captain's Log and I release the second batch of old versions of Mars Luna songs that never got to see the light of day next month, Coda, um, I don't necessarily feel attached to it anymore because this is done, and Mars Luna had his day, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be him. You know what I'm saying? To experiment with different parts of myself, uh, to learn how to embrace looking stupid. And that was a big one. Embracing uh, looking stupid. And then that's what embracing the strange meant. Um, not being afraid to make a fool out of myself, not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of what other people would think about me. And I've received a lot of DMs in the past where it's like, oh, Mars Luna is so weird or whatever. But the more that I do this deep dive on what Mars Luna meant to me, I'm realizing that Mars Luna was a part of me. He was a part of me that needed to be let out, that I've repressed for a while. And now that I'm heading into a new season where I'm fully confident in myself as an artist and as a person, there really is no need for Mars Luna anymore. I did Mars Luna and I portrayed the Mars Luna character because I hated who I was. And I wasn't confident in myself. I wasn't confident in Joshua Luna as an artist. I wasn't confident in Joshua Luna, the human being. And Mars Luna was basically the great escape from that. That's why I did the whole space alien singer and cosmic prince from the sixth dimension thing because it was it was my way of expressing my artistry, but I still was able to hide. I was still able to uh, put the mask on or put the paint on or you know, put the stars on, put the lip paint on, or have, bring Ethan with me, because and those things made it fun. Those things made me feel better about being Mars Luna. Uh, but but I outgrew it, and there's no reason for me to do it anymore. But I'm still going to finish what I start. You know what I'm saying? So, um, before I dig into the next part of the podcast, uh, for those who are watching and listening for the first time, I usually try to center each episode around a general philosophical or fun question that pertains to the project or the single, um, album or EP that I'm working on, or that, you know what I'm saying? And usually, you know, I try to ask a question that revolves around each single album EP's theme. And before I do that, I just want to do an unofficial sponsor plug. Um, so the ML Backstage podcast is unofficially sponsored by Celsius, and today's flavor is the Oasis Vibe. Now, I've tried this one before. I don't remember what it tastes like, but I'm assuming it's like some kind of like, oh gosh, and it's prickly lime. Okay, I had to open it because I spilled it, small kind. But it's a prickly lime edition, which matches my green outfit today. And if you ever need like a pick me up, if you ever need some energy throughout your day, or like a little pre-workout, Celsius is your way to go. It provides essential energy, accelerates metabolism, burns body fat, and every time I edit these episodes, I usually do have a quick turnaround time with them. So the Celsius keeps me going. It helps me with my editing process, and I highly recommend it if you ever need to pick me up. So cheers. Here's the Oasis vibe. Here's the Celsius. You can pick one up at your local grocery store, your local Target, local Walmart, Smith's, Kroger, etc. So cheers. So today's question that I'm revolving Captain's log around is 1 second. Let me pull up my template. Is what did you learn about yourself this year? And I would say that the main thing I learned about myself this year is to basically just trust the process, that everything is meant to happen the way that it's supposed to. If you do your best, if you put your best foot forward and see that everything is going to take you um, the way that it's supposed to go, then you can find peace in knowing whatever the outcome is. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to I'm not really good with my words. Please forgive me. But you can have peace with whatever outcome comes your way if you put your best foot forward, if you're solid with everybody, if you do the right thing, then you ain't got to worry about the outcome. Everything is meant to happen the way it's supposed to anyway. And if you trust the process, then you'll have confidence in knowing that the outcome that you're looking for is it's meant to happen the way it's supposed to. And oftentimes, as the case with this year, you know, I started off this year, announcing Mars Luna's last year. I wrote out a statement, and it got great responses on it, and then I was still trying to find ways to be creative because I was still in a creative slump at the time, and it led me to the Shag Room where I did a bunch of performances leading up to the Final Voyage release, and then after that period was done, I realized that I needed to figure out a 5-year plan or 4-year plan. And I realized that after I did my first Buyer Entertainment gig and only Buyer Entertainment gig, shout out to them. Um, I realized that I had a path that was that I could have taken here, but it wasn't for me, right? So you know, went to Nashville and visited Belmont for the first time, and then, you know, did what I had to do there. It was beautiful, and I'll talk about Belmont in a little bit, but not in this episode, but in a future one. But basically, kind of affirmed that once you trust God, once you trust the process, then everything is meant to happen the way that it's supposed to. And sometimes you may have a certain expectation on what you want the outcome to be, but sometimes though God can illuminate those plans and make them better than you could have ever imagined. So um, this year has been a trial testing year. This year has been it's been a roller coaster of a year. Shout out to the song roller coaster one time, but it's all been worth it. Um, and Mars Luna has been worth it. And I've grown a lot from Mars Luna in these past 9 years, and I'm ready to channel all of that, everything that I've learned from Mars Luna into the truest, rawest, and most authentic version of myself. So, so the best is yet to come. You feel me? So, I just want to ask you, what did you learn about yourself this year? Leave it in the comment section below. Leave it on the show notes on uh, the audio podcast sites, and and on social media. I'll post a question box, asking what you learned about yourself. And so yeah, thank you so much to everybody who's been listening and watching these episodes, and to everyone who's listened to Mars Luna's music and for giving him a chance. Um, Shout out to those who've been ride or dies with me on this journey. Shout out to those who listen to Mars Luna, but um, but kind of faded out. It's all love. Uh, shout out to those who thought that Mars Luna was a gimmick. Um, and now I can fully say that even though I was portraying this character, it really wasn't a gimmick, because Mars Luna represented a part of me that I repressed for a long time, and I learned a lot from being Mars Luna. So thank you. I'm grateful for all of it, and 2026 is going to be the most transformational year of my life, and I can't wait to bring you guys along with me. So um, you can follow the podcast on ML Backstage on YouTube and Spotify. You just type in ML Backstage. You can subscribe on YouTube and Spotify or Apple Podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram and Threads at Luna B Joshua, and TikTok as well. I'll post a little bit more content on TikTok next year under that name. You can follow all the music on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube at It's Mars Luna. Um, TBD on what I'll be doing with those accounts next year. But um, they'll basically be an archive that you can go to whenever. And I have one more EP that is the continuation of Captain's Log, called Coda. Coda in music terms means the end. It's the very last Mars Luna EP. It's crazy now that I even think about it, but yeah, the last ML Backstage episode this year will be next month, and we'll see what happens from there in 2026. And and Coda is basically another Captain's Log. It's another those like old versions of songs that were kept in the chamber for too long, and now you get to see their first forms. So thank you so much again for listening and watching the ML Backstage podcast. Thank you to everyone who's who's been along this Cosmic Chronicles Mars Luna journey for these past 9 years, and I hope you all come along with me on these for next year, because next year is gonna be special. It's gonna be a lot of newness, and I'm really excited, really excited about it. So, um, as Mars Luna likes to say, embrace your odyssey, embrace the strange, and long live prosper. Shoot! Yeah, 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 yeah.
What's your favorite memory of us, Ethan?
Whenever we went to the club and saw all the ladies.
Alright, anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the ML Backstage podcast. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to us on Apple and YouTube at ML Backstage. You can follow me on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at It's Mars Luna. You can find all of my music on Spotify and Apple Music and on my website at itsmarsluna.com. Stream Captain's Log on your favorite streaming platform. Thank you for listening to my music and watching all of these episodes. Stay tuned next month for the last ML Backstage episode of the year. I'm sad now. Bye!